This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for How to Super Age with Elise Collins. And Elise, I think today we're going to be talking about some foods and supplements and things that can help us super age in a more healthy way, correct?
Yes, I want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. And I just want to share 10 superfoods today. 10 foods, 5 are going to be pretty common, and then 5 a little more, I'd say, you can't find at the corner store. 5 you can find at the corner store. So it's going to be, this will help superagers that are just starting out, or maybe you don't know a lot about superfoods, or it sounds too complicated, or maybe you don't shop at some stores that carry these things. But a lot of stores are carrying superfoods these days,
Yes,
and
they
you'd be
are.
surprised. Yeah. So, but also want to make it real simple too, because sometimes I think we overcomplicate our eating and what superfoods are. They have to come from somewhere far away, when actually you could sometimes grow them in your backyard or get them, again, as I said, at the corner store.
Sure.
And yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about my books first. So I'm going to be looking at this book that I wrote back, don't even know when that was published. Let's see, I'm looking 2009. It is an A to Z guide to healing foods, and I loved researching this book. So many foods. And this was meant to be something you could carry to the grocery store, but now we have apps and things, but it's still a
Sure.
fun book to look at when you're planning your meals, or planning a trip to the grocery store. I also wrote Chocolate Tonics, which has a lot of superfoods, and something called Adaptogens, which we'll be speaking about. And then I want to show you guys, this is a copy of my book, Super Ager. And you're wondering, like, if you're
New
listening,
front. Yeah.
it is not in English. It's been translated into Turkish. Yeah, Super Ager. So my brother got me a copy of this for Christmas this year.
Very nice.
So
Yeah.
it's got a beautiful cover. The English version is also beautiful, Super Ager. You can look younger. I always forget the rest of it, but have more energy and live a long and healthy life. I think I forgot one of the phrases, but it's packed with great tips and tricks, and also some superfoods in there. So
Okay.
let's begin. Do you have any questions about superfoods, Karen, before we begin?
You and I talked about this offline once before, and I didn't realize how many things I was adding to my menu were really superfoods. I mean, I use chives and parsley a lot, and it was like, hmm, guess what? Parsley is a superfood, and that's an easy one to find in almost any supermarket. So I started realizing I'm doing a few things that are pretty good for me.
Yeah, and you're speaking to a great point. So, yeah, let's begin with parsley. And I want to, I'm going to make a pun, parse something out. Because one of the things with, this is Ellen Langer is mentioned in my book. And Ellen Langer, she's in a lot of podcasts. You can just Google her. Ellen Langer, Langer, has done tremendous work. She's a Harvard psychologist. She's done tremendous work with what happens when our mind, the power of our mind over our health. And you're reminding me of one of her studies, which is she worked with, she called them chambermaids. And chambermaids, well, she did a thing where she took some of the, I would call them hotel housekeeping. She told them to, you're not getting, or I don't know if she told.
I think we lost you. We froze there for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, so I want to talk about parsley, and I want to also talk about something that affects our health that's even outside of the foods that we eat. I'm going to make a connection with Ellen Langer. So Ellen Langer is a Harvard psychologist, and she's done all these studies on the mind, the power of the mind. She's known as the queen of mindfulness. And I'm connecting this with what you said, Karen, because when we think we're not eating healthy, that affects us. When we think we're not being healthy, that diminishes our health. The study she did was with hotel housekeepers. She took a group of hotel housekeepers and she just measured their, pulse, their how much weight they lost or gained in a certain period of time. Then she took another group, that was a control group. She took another group and she told them the truth, which was that they were getting a lot of exercise, as many of us know, when you're doing
Right.
housework or cleaning, especially if you're cleaning, that's what you're doing all day long. You're doing a lot of exercise, you're doing a lot of stretching, you're tucking the bed corners under, you're moving your arms when you're vacuuming or swishing.
Sure.
And she told this not the control group, she told one group that they're getting lots of exercise, just like they're going to a gym. And it turned out that those housekeepers were much healthier when they looked at the biomarkers at the end. So I'm drawing a connection because in the beginning of the podcast, you said that you didn't realize you were eating as many superfoods that as you were.
Right.
And one of them is parsley, because people don't think of parsley as a superfood. We're kind of almost, oh, it's just on the plate. It's just a garnish. Or maybe we sprinkle it on our Italian food. But parsley is actually an incredible superfood packed with minerals. It's a green, we think of kale. People are really big on kale now.
Right.
But I'm going to talk about parsley because parsley has the same benefits. One of the things it's great for is curbing inflammation, lowering blood pressure, and it also is packed with phytonutrients. It's anti-inflammatory, and it's got all kinds of vitamins. You can sprinkle it on food. I'm really big on sprinkling things on food. You could chop up a lot of it and then sprinkle it on every meal. It's going to kind of zest up your meal. It's got that kind of zesty flavor. You can put it in smoothies, add it to, if you add butter, coconut oil, olive oil, it goes well with, just spices up your food, and it is so good for you. And if you're already eating it, as you said, it's going to, now and you can affirm that, like what we think about grows. So if you're thinking, I'm not eating that healthy, number one, if you're eating parsley, you are. Number two, buy a sprig of parsley. If you're on a budget, it's, prices have gone up,
Right.
but you can buy it for a couple dollars, chop it up, make it easy on yourself, throw it on your meals. You can also grow it, get some seeds, grow it. It's not that hard. That's one of the things you can do, a kitchen garden. And they sell those, they
Right.
sell things like parsley and different herbs in containers. So great for that.
Good.
And I can keep going
Yes,
unless you have any
absolutely.
questions.
Keep going, and you're going to get me hungry too. So,
Yes. Cilantro is another one that I love. Now, not everyone likes the flavor of cilantro, but some people love it. I love the flavor of cilantro. I grew up in California, and if you grow up in California, you pretty much grow up with Mexican food, and cilantro is a huge part of that. Many world cuisines, Indian cuisine. My mom also cooked Indian food for us growing up. So I grew up with a lot of cilantro. Cilantro is very important because it detoxifies us of heavy metals. If you think, most of us are exposed to a lot of heavy metals that we're breathing in, they're coming through pesticides. Maybe we grew up near, unfortunately, like a chemical power plant, or not power plant, but factory. I just
right.
spoke to somebody who lives in our area, and there was a sugar factory, and that could have, the fumes from that she had breast cancer in her early 30s, and she thinks maybe that came from the fumes from the sugar factory. We don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know. You can get
Sure.
your blood tested for heavy metals, but one of the things we do know is that cilantro detoxifies us of heavy metals. So really good for that. It's also packed with nutrients. It's sometimes known as Chinese parsley, again, because it's used so much in Asian cuisine, again, Mexican cuisine, Caribbean cuisine. And it's another one you can sprinkle on, even if you don't like the flavor that much, just put a little bit on. If you want another good value detoxifier, try cilantro. You can put it in your smoothie. Even if you don't like the flavor, I would recommend it because it's so good for you. You could also even just drink it with lemon juice, like make a smoothie with lemon, cilantro. It might not be the most delicious thing, but your health is going to really shift, especially if you think you've been exposed to those minerals. And you need a detox. It's an excellent detox. I'm going to turn to, I think it's in here, but if it's not in here, yeah, cilantro's not in this book, but it's definitely you can just look it up online.
Sure.
It's a spice that you can also grow in your kitchen. The next one I'm going to talk about is a root. It's also, maybe it's not in every corner store, but it's in a store that I can walk to a couple blocks away. Ginger. Ginger is so fantastic for our health because it helps with digestion. It helps with inflammation. In Indian medicine, it's known as the universal healer. Like if anything else, if you like the flavor of ginger in desserts, in tea, add it again to everything. Can be another one that you sprinkle on, although it's a bit zingy if you don't cook it, but you can chop it up. If you like flavor, some people like spicy flavors. Some people it might be too much. You can also get powdered ginger, which isn't as potent, but there is some that are, can be very potent. There's a
Sure.
brand, it's called diaspora.co, and they have the most amazing dried ginger. It's really spicy and delicious, and I use that. You can sprinkle that in a lot of different foods. You can also sprinkle in finely chopped ginger. Or one thing that I like to do, especially with Asian dishes, is you start out with a little oil in your pan. Could be ghee or coconut oil. Ghee is clarified butter. And then you add the fresh ginger and just let it sizzle just a little bit. And then you can saute the rest of your ingredients. You just want to be careful that you don't burn the ginger, but you just cook it enough that the ginger goes into the oil, and then you can add that. You could also add that at the end, like you could steam your vegetables and then add that ginger and oil mixture. You can add other
Sounds
spices, but
good.
we'll keep
Yeah.
it simple. Yeah. So ginger also helps with inflammation, digestion. It's really good for arthritis. And gingerols are in the ginger, and they also help with reducing blood pressure, and they are good for blood thinning. So if you're on a blood thinner and maybe you want to get off a blood thinner, try ginger, but be careful. You don't want to, it's pretty hard to have excess ginger because you can only take so much, but it's really, yeah, I think natural means of reducing blood pressure and thinning our blood. It's really good to use medications because we don't want to be high in those
Sure.
levels. But the more you can use foods and natural medicine, the better. And you can check with your doctor if you have any questions about any of these foods.
I agree
Anything you
with you. Always, there are so many good things out there, but sometimes you are taking medication. There can be, an indicator that says you can't take these two things at the same time. And it might mean that you can't take it when you've taken your medication. You've got to wait an hour or so. So trying to understand all that is a great balance. And a lot of them, they're not going to contradict each other, so you'll be just fine.
Yeah, it's only if you're eating excess amounts. So if you start eating so much ginger that, maybe with every meal, that can be a great thing, especially if you're on a healing journey and you want to use natural medicine. But then you might want to check with your doctor. If you're having it maybe in one meal a day, you should be fine. And you can also talk to your doctor, because many doctors encourage the use of healing foods. Some don't know, and they might refer you maybe to a nutritionist or somebody that does know. And if your doctor is not supportive, I would say find a doctor that's supportive of healing foods, because it's 2024 and there's enough information out there. There's enough studies. All of these foods that I'm talking about, you can look up numerous studies. Many of them have, they have, I would say, a folklore. Folklore meaning they've been used traditionally as healers. Parsley, cilantro, ginger, all have been used in traditional medicines in cultures around the world. So sometimes we think, oh, Western medicine's better. Western medicine cures all, but we're now catching up with that. There's so much evidence for all of these foods. So we can't just kind of put it in that category that it's woo-woo or weird. But there's still that programming out there. And I know with some of my parents, let's just say my parents, sometimes my mom eats a lot of these foods, but for some of the things that I take maybe as supplements or put in smoothies, she might kind of roll her eyes at and think, why is my daughter eating this weird stuff? That's okay. I can show her the evidence if she's interested. She may not be interested, but I'm hoping that everyone here at least gives these very common superfoods a chance. Give
Absolutely.
superfoods a chance and validate what you're already doing so that you can increase it and let your health benefit. So another one of my favorites is lemons. Drum roll, please.
Yeah.
Lemons are incredible and they have an alkalizing effect on the body. Stress and other, even our mental stress, our emotional stress has an effect on the body, and it causes us to be more acidic, more inflammatory. It just doesn't do well, it doesn't help our system. But drinking something like lemon water in the morning, afternoon, evening, you can have that lemon water warm, cold, if it's the summertime, if you're listening to this in the summer, it makes the water easier to drink. It turns it into more of a mineralized, easier to absorb drink, just like Gatorade. Like you can make your own kind of Gatorade by adding a little natural salt, not just regular table salt. It has to be sea salt, lemon, and water. Just a pinch of sea salt, lemon water. You've got your own hydrating drink that's just like Gatorade and doesn't have the the sweeteners and things like
Sure.
that. I know Gatorade is making some unsweetened hydrating drinks, but why not use nature? Why not squeeze
Absolutely.
half a lemon or a whole lemon into your drink?
Okay. Sounds good. That's what I do.
And one more tip is you can take a little of the pith. Do you know what the pith is?
Is it that lining on the inside?
It can be the inside or even the outside. Sometimes recipes, especially special dessert recipes, will call for like a little grated lemon rind.
Okay.
And that lemon rind is also packed with bioflavonoids, really good for our heart health and circulation, because that pith has ingredients in it that helps you to build stronger blood vessels. Bioflavonoids that are specifically good for, I'm looking at these things, yeah, they're really good. Citrus flavonoids in lemon peels are highly recommended for anyone who's suffering from what we call vein collapse, meaning if you get spider veins or varicose veins, lemon pie is especially powerful. And lemons also have potassium. They help you cleanse out your liver. It's a great drink, and you can add sugar if you like. I'll add one more little recipe it's in my Chakra Tonics book. It's a healing lemonade. So you can squeeze the juice of lemons, add apples, and you've got your own healthy lemonade. Apple juice is, you know how sugary apple juice
Right,
is? It's very
right.
sweet. So that combination of apples and lemons, it's a great recipe, and it's in this book. If you have a juicer,
Okay.
highly recommended. And while we're on the subject of juicing, all of these ingredients I've mentioned so far, cilantro, that is going to, you probably want to add that to either a little bit or, make sure you like the flavor because you don't want to ruin your juice. A vegetable juice would be better. The parsley, lemons, and ginger, you can juice all of those. You can add all of those to your smoothie. Cilantro might be better to add to a smoothie because you can kind of disguise it because it's going to make it taste a little, a little different, but it's such a good healing ingredient that I would highly recommend adding it to a smoothie.
Okay. Sounds good. Wow. And almost all those can be purchased in most grocery stores because I see cilantro in the grocery store, obviously parsley, obviously lemons. So, anybody who's listening to this, you may not find it at the corner store that only has milk and cheese, but you'll find it at your major grocery stores.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there is some stores, if like the store in my neighborhood, it's got things for, kind of that you forgot. And because ginger, lemon, parsley, and cilantro are so commonly used, they're often at that type of store. Yeah. Maybe not the corner liquor store. Once in a while, you do find those ingredients at the store. So let's see. So let me make sure. I think I have my list over. Let me check my list. Oh, here we go. Okay. The last one, I wanted to get all the common ones because we had 4. Number 5 is turmeric. Now, this might not have been as common like 20, 30 years ago, but turmeric is so ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And turmeric cannot be denied as one of the most wonderful and greatest superfoods. It rivals pharmaceuticals in so many ways. It's anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory. It pretty much helps with every chronic disease that we are facing now as we live longer, as we super age. So I would ask you, I want to say beg you, I would say if you don't have turmeric in your kitchen, please go out and buy some because it is so excellent. And it's another one of those spices, food. It's actually now you can find it in a lot of supermarkets, especially in places like Whole Foods or health food stores. The whole root you can find in the supermarket, and you can juice that, you can chop it up, you can add it with ginger. It's great in combination with ginger. And then eat that with your vegetables, stir fries, things like that. Or you can just sprinkle it on. It does have the dried turmeric has a more bitter flavor. The fresh turmeric is a little bit sweeter, but it's all very, very potent. And it helps with healing in so many ways. Even if we look at the incidence of things like cancer in India, diabetes, it's so much less it's believed because of the consumption of turmeric. Um, do you like turmeric, Karen?
So I've taken it in capsule form. And then for some reason I stopped taking it. I'm not quite sure why. Um, but as soon as you said it, was like, you know what, I need to add that back in because
Yeah.
it did. I remember I took it when I had my knee surgery, and I was told this will help take the swelling down. And it was like, wow, within a week, I mean, I had no swelling at all. So
Wow.
it was
Yeah.
worthwhile.
And you bring up a couple of important points. One is that we can also take these superfoods, we can take them as supplements. You don't necessarily have to sprinkle them on their food, but it's good to take them with meals because there's a synergistic effect. And most of the supplements will include black pepper because black pepper really increases the potency of turmeric. It's also very good for cognitive health, helps with our memory, brain health, helps reduce incidence of Alzheimer's and dementia. So that's another important benefit of turmeric. And again, you can add it to food, you know, and with a little bit, it doesn't really alter the flavor that much. It's often in Indian curries. A lot of Asian cuisine uses turmeric. So when you get takeout, get some curry. If you like curry, it's an excellent one. So now we'll go into some of the like maybe less westernized. I don't even know. Our cultures are becoming, at least in California, we have so many different kinds of foods and
Sure.
groceries and things. But people may be listening from all over the world. So I also like that you spoke about how, just talking about these foods reminds us to bring them back. And we kind of intuitively can listen to this podcast and think, oh, I want more, I need to get that turmeric back in my diet.
Right.
It's helping me because I'm going shopping today. I'm going to get some of these superfoods that I'm talking about that it's easy to just get lulled into not using them. So that's another reason I like to talk about them because it reminds me to consume them. It reminds me how easy it is.
Exactly.
What we talk about grows, and the health that I share with people begets more health for me. So let's talk about seaweed because seaweed is another great one that's really excellent because it gives us minerals. And seaweed, of course, grows in the ocean, and it's called sea vegetable for a reason because it's like a vegetable that grows in the sea. And what the seaweed does is it takes the minerals from the ocean and converts it into a form of food that we can eat. There are
Interesting.
many, yeah, isn't that interesting? There are many different kinds of seaweeds, and I'm not going to go into all the detail, but there's some that you can wrap sushi in. Now I see a lot in grocery stores where I live, the dried nori sheets that are sometimes kind of uh, they're cooked a little bit, and they're often seasoned, and they can be very delicious. Even kids will eat them a lot. Different than the wrap. The wrap is a little seaweed that's wrapped around sushi is sometimes more plain, but there's dried cooked nori sheets that are spicy and delicious. Those, I think they're delicious, and those have a lot of health benefits. There's also something called dulse, which is very high in minerals, and you can just sprinkle that on your food. It's really delicious. So many different kinds of seaweed. So I'm just going to think of a couple more. I don't remember the name of it, but there's a seaweed that you can get in seaweed salad. Not everybody likes the seaweed salad that is in sushi restaurants. Sometimes it's a little slimy, but that's excellent for you. There's types of seaweeds like kombu that you can add to soups, and you can add to cooking beans. It actually helps make the beans more digestible. Seaweed has been studied. There's so many benefits, and one of them is actually helps with weight loss because there's something in the seaweed that helps you lose weight. Also can help with hormone balancing because of the iodine. It's another one that you don't want to overeat. Most people aren't going to really overeat, so I don't want to put fear in you, but you can check with your doctor if you think you're eating too much seaweed. But sprinkling a little seaweed on your plate is really not going to be, you know, it's not going to have
Sure.
adverse effects. And again, it's something, especially in Japan, people eat seaweed with almost every meal. Look, it's got great fiber, and it's really good for digestion as well.
Interesting. Because when most of us think of seaweed, we think of that as the garbage stuff that's, from the bottom of the sea. We don't think of it as a food supplement.
Yeah, it's true. And I've actually gone seaweed harvesting in California. We have, a lot of oceans. So probably like 6 years ago, I went on this seaweed foraging adventure during the low tide, and it was a lot of fun. We gathered a lot of seaweed. We helped this woman who sells the seaweed, and then we got to take some home, and she instructed us on how to do it. So
Interesting.
and a lot of, there's a lot of seaweed farms, so to speak. I'm just going to go over a couple more, and then I'd love to do this again sometime. So maybe in like 3, 4 months. There's so many healing foods that we're not going to be able to cover all of them. I know we've all got to get on with our day. Whenever you're
Okay.
listening to this, maybe go to sleep. Maybe it's a midday treat for you. So we'll check back maybe 3 or 4 months. So many healing foods. I'm just going to talk about, let's say, 2 more. And I also want to mention Magic Mind, because I forgot to mention Magic Mind. Magic Mind is a wonderful supplement, and it's a little shot you can take. It's got matcha, ashwagandha, ginger, all kinds of delicious ingredients. It's something you can take with you. I drink it when I need a pick-me-up, especially if I'm thinking I want to take some coffee during the day. I'm at work and I'm like, oh, my energy's kind of low. Where I work, often there's cups of coffee with terrible creamers, not even real soy milk or almond milk. It's just like that coffee creamer stuff. And that's really not good for you. It kind of is like sludge. It's like very processed. So instead of that, I bring these little shots, Magic Mind shots, and I drink those. I felt way better. Other people are drinking the coffee and they're like, what are you doing, Elise? I'm giving myself superfoods and energy because let's face it, we often feel a lull in our day. Sometimes after eating, we get that kind of blood sugar slump. So I highly recommend Magic Mind. I'm going to drop in our show notes some deep discounts for you to get this. Try it out. Comes in 6 packs. You can enjoy Magic Mind and your life will never be the same.
Sounds
Seriously.
good. Yes.
Has ashwagandha. So we're going to talk about ashwagandha because ashwagandha, it's another root. You won't find this root in your supermarket, but you will find in a lot of health food stores. You can find it online. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen. And what an adaptogen does is it builds you up, but you can't take too much of it. So just like we were talking about the other ingredients, adaptogens are great because they sort of have a like almost like you can't get in, you can take as much as you like, you'll get the benefits, and it will never harm you to take too much.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about taking too much. And adaptogens help build up your immunity, your strength. If you're depleted, especially if you're very tired or fatigued, ashwagandha gives you energy, gives you focus. It also helps you sleep. So that's the interesting thing about adaptogens. So energy kind of brings us up like caffeine. If we take too much caffeine, it's not an adaptogen. It's going to keep us up all night, right? Especially if we take it later in the day because our body metabolizes that caffeine. Ashwagandha is the opposite. It's going to bring your energy up and then help you to sleep at night because it's going to regulate your nervous system. It helps to regulate your nervous system. So that's why I make ashwagandha a regular part of my routine, especially if, we've gone through menopause, hormonal changes, ashwagandha really helps build up, especially if we have adrenal fatigue. We've been burning the candle on both ends for too long. Ashwagandha is great. Here's another interesting thing. Has anyone seen those commercials on TV for Nutrafol
Oh,
hair?
yeah,
The
right.
hair loss product. Yeah, it's really big now. And I actually met the founder of that company several years ago. I think it was before the pandemic. So it was at least 5 years ago. My friend knows, I don't even remember the person's name, but I went to their offices in New York. And this was before they got really big. And he was very generous and he gave me a big box, a sample of Nutrafol. So I took it for a while. And the thing about Nutrafol, it is a great product. It uses all natural ingredients, and one of the biggest ingredients in Nutrafol is ashwagandha.
Okay.
They're not talking about that in the commercials. So I think that just speaks to what is going to help us, get better skin, better hair. Didn't talk about one thing about seaweed. Seaweed has natural collagen. That's another thing that's big. Collagen supplements. Seaweed has natural collagen.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of these things you can get from food that we're seeing advertised. There's a lot of infomercials. There's a lot of commercials for natural supplements and natural products now. That's why I love talking about these things, because you can learn so
Absolutely.
much. Yeah, so it can help your hair grow thicker, better. It strengthens everything, the building blocks of your body.
Okay.
So look for it. It's on Amazon. It's in a lot of grocery stores. You can find it also. We have something called Grocery Outlet. Do you guys have that there?
Not that I'm aware
Probably
of.
just a California thing. Sometimes you can find it. It's like they have a lot of overruns and it's like cheap groceries, but I found ashwagandha at our local grocery outlet. So look for it all over. And the last one I'm going to do, another sort of obscure, but often found in most health food stores. It's called Tulsi. And Tulsi. What is Tulsi? Tulsi. It's kind of a master herb in Ayurveda. And guess what? It's basil. It's just an Indian
Interesting.
basil. Mm-hmm. So around the world, there's different types of basil. If you've had Thai food, there's Thai basil. If you've had Italian food, the one we're most familiar with is Italian basil. But there's also an Indian basil. And we know that basil is great. So you can also add Italian basil because that's most readily available. Or when you have Thai food, you'll get that Thai basil. So that's a great way to get the healing effects of basil. In the tea, though, you can get a lot. Tulsi tea, you can now find that online very easily. There's I think it's called Organics or Organic India. I can't remember the name of it because they were an early sponsor. It's in my book, Chakra Tonics. There's Tulsi tea recipes. The chapter on the brow chakra, there's a great Tulsi tea recipe. Tulsi is great, again, for energy and relaxation. So it regulates your nervous system. If your body is tired, it will help you relax. If your body needs energy, it will build you up. It will build up that energy. It's great for immunity, inflammation. It will help your body overall. It's just like a great, it's like giving yourself an oil change. Have a cup of Tulsi tea daily. And you can add, so in my book, Chakra Tonics, you can use the dried Tulsi and then add a live, a fresh basil leaf to your tea, just to give it a little color, a little umph. So I highly recommend Tulsi.
Wow. We're getting a good education today. And as I'm listening to you, I'm realizing that some of these ingredients I have seen in some of the foods, I've purchased. Um, I do a lot of online food purchasing and I look for things that are good for me. because I can make a lot of bad things on my own. I don't, need to go looking for those. But it's interesting. My husband got a supplement the other day, and I don't remember all the ingredients in it, but I know there's basil in it. And my first reaction was like, why is this? And it's actually for prostate cleansing. And he went back and looked at a prescription he had, and he looked at the ingredients, and almost the exact same ingredients that were in that prescription are in the supplement that he could buy online. And so he thought, well, why don't I just try that? Because it seems healthier than some of the added chemicals to the prescription. And he talked to his doctor about it, and his doctor agreed. So I want everybody to know he didn't just like throw a prescription away. He did talk to his doctor, and the doctor went over everything and said, yeah, that's basically what I want you to take. Yeah, I didn't know we could get that over the counter.
Yeah, so that's a great ending point. I just want to mention that my dad also listens to his doctor, and he doesn't listen to me.
Yeah.
No, he will once in a while, but rarely. He listens to his doctor, and I noticed that my dad has been taking a supplement for eye health.
Yes.
And it's got a lot of interesting ingredients, and that would be something maybe for the next show that we do on superfoods. We're going to have some guests coming up next month, and the month afterwards, we're going to have some great guests. I will be sharing on a lot of different modalities and yoga and different things that are going to help you super age. But the supplements are fun because, again, we can buy something that's pre-made, and that's great. But we can also learn how we can add those foods into our diet. So if my dad is taking it, my dad will be 95 in April. It's March now when we're recording this, 2024. My dad will be 95 and he's pretty healthy. And he's also taking supplements, which is unusual for him. And it was not something that was a norm when he was young or even in many times of his life.
Oh, that is wonderful. Well, I want to thank you for sharing all this today. And again, we will see you again next month, and we'll have a guest, and we'll widen the conversation. So have a beautiful day.
Thank
Take care
you.
now.
Bye,
Bye-bye
Super
now.
Rangers.